Guys, welcome back to the show. Welcome to a Monday Night Live. We're going live Monday this week because of Thanksgiving and the holidays. I'm actually in St. Louis right now, back home visiting my family. I'm at my grandma's house right now. And so I apologize for the audio. First of all, if it doesn't sound the greatest, I'm just using my computer, nothing special here. So it's not going to be professional, but we wanted to cover all this stuff that's happening right now. We both just watched the Age of Disclosure documentary. We're going to be going over that among many other things. Got some notes to go through. There's a lot to cover actually, but we won't keep you too long. Before we get into all that stuff, Aaron, are we even live?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
we are.
Before we get into all that stuff, just a few quick reminders. So we have our own documentary coming out, a secret space program based documentary that is coming out. Well, it's a soft release in January. We're premiering it. We're doing a private screening in January on January 9th in Sedona. The theater is already sold out. There may be one or two tickets that open up. If anyone is interested, just reach out to us. But we're looking forward to that. So it's going to be a soft release, and then we're looking into how we can officially get it out on Amazon Prime and all that. So stay tuned for all those details. We're very excited about it. We believe the Age of Disclosure documentary really sets the stage for what we're bringing forward. And we'll get into that in a little bit. And I also wanted to remind people that our Hawaii conference is coming up in April. And if you're interested in joining us on the Big Island, Kona, we would love to have you there. It's over half sold out at this point. So if anybody does want to come, make sure you grab a ticket soon. Tickets are very limited. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we might be having a slight change in lineup. Abby Lynn had to back out for some personal reasons, so we'll be replacing her with somebody. So stay tuned for those updates. But nevertheless, we're excited, and you can find all that information on our website at journeytotruth.online, including information about the documentary. And there's a lot of developments there. We're really excited about it. It's turned into a really major film, actually, and we think it can do good. We think it's going to be big if we can do this right. So. How you doing today, Aaron?
Doing great. How are you?
Perfect. Can't you tell?
Yeah,
At at my grandma's house.
at your grandma's house.
Um, no, it is weird, this is my first time being back home since I left, and it's kind of I'm definitely glad I moved, but it also is comfortable coming back to familiar energy and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
home always feels like home, usually,
Right.
at least for a
Yeah.
long
At
while.
my grandma.
I'll be back in St. Louis in a couple weeks or a few weeks as well.
Sandy Beach 17 said she got tickets for Sedona. Can't wait. Yes. Oh, yeah. So also the following weekend. So that's January 9th. We're doing our documentary premiere. And then the following weekend on the 17th, 16th, 17th, and 18th, Tony Rodriguez is doing another Odyssey event, the Odyssey conference. It's going to be much smaller one day. I think there's only four speakers on Saturday, and he asked me to host like a round table type of thing on Saturday as well. So, and then Friday night we are going to be showing the documentary again at the Odyssey conference there. So Lily Nova is going to do a sound bath, and we're going to do the documentary on Friday night. Saturday is the speaker lineup, and then Sunday is the um, something else. There's something else going on Sunday, and we would have collaborated and done it all one weekend, but they planned this after we already did the documentary thing. So there's 2 weekends in a row. We're going to be showing the documentary out there if you guys are interested. And hopefully soon we'll have a trailer ready for you guys. I can't wait to start getting that together. We're still definitely working on the film. It's not complete. It's almost complete, but this is going to be a private screening, kind of like in the Above Majestic days. If anybody remembers when they were filming that documentary, they showed some early versions of it, privately before it was released. That's kind of what we're doing here, but we're hoping to have the final version ready for the release in January. So, um, what did you think of the documentary, Age of Disclosure, Aaron?
It was it was good for what it was. It was really good for what it was. Um, I did not have, I think a lot of people, it got hyped up a lot. So there was I think a lot of people going into it with too high of expectations or the wrong mindset going into it. Like this is going to be some groundbreaking disclosure documentary. And in a sense, it was groundbreaking, but not in the way that people like you and me would think of groundbreaking, where they're like, this is all stuff we've heard a million times before for a long time. But, you got to think of it in the mindset of somebody that knows nothing at all about any of this stuff, right?
Right,
The normie, the whatever, the person that is brand new to this topic. You have to put yourself, because that's really who this film is for. Because think about it, that's the majority of people, right? So if we want to get disclosure out there, you can't just only cater to a small, tiny minority that already knows a whole bunch or even knows, a base level, because that's still the minority of people, even if there's a growing number and a lot of people that think UFOs are real or that there's the possibility of ET life being here and all, et cetera, et cetera. They still usually a lot of those people haven't ever looked into anything or know really any details. They might just be open to that, right?
right,
Or
right,
have a belief that doesn't really come from it much. So you gotta put yourself in the mindset of somebody like that, or somebody that doesn't even have that just knows nothing, is not even ever thought about it, or even has beliefs that, oh, this can't like none of this can possibly be real. Then they watch a whole bunch of highly credentialed people in the government and military all in one documentary
right,
definitively saying this stuff is not only real, but we've been dealing with it for many decades. Um, that we have crashed craft, that we've recovered some of this technology, that um, the government has been, and the powers that be have been lying to
right.
everyone for many decades, blah blah blah, things that we all know, but many people don't know, right?
I,
So I put myself in that mindset of watching it. I really tried to put myself in that mindset watching it. And then from that perspective, I'm like, this is fantastic. This
right.
is this is powerful, and this is a groundbreaking thing for those people that need something like this.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I also, so being a researcher and doing what we do and reading the books that we do and covering this stuff at the depth that we do, I also semi was bored halfway through it because
Yeah, right.
I understand that perspective, but for the researcher, there really isn't anything new. I mean, that's just the case. But it's what is new is that they're talking about some of the technologies and time travel and stuff more realistically. And like I was actually
Yeah,
very happy about that part of it.
yeah. That
Talking
was a that was a pleasant surprise. That was the one pleasant surprise.
right. They specifically said talked about craft operating in a bubble, riding space-time
Yeah.
like a wave. Time is moving differently for the people inside than the people outside the bubble.
Hmm.
It was creating a space-time environment that signals from that distorted the radar signals. So taking a photo through the space-time barrier is effectively what you're doing, and that's why you get these blurry photos. Gravity has no effect on the inside of it. It's disconnected from the atmosphere. Like they're saying like when you walk into these craft, they get bigger on the inside. It'll look like a small saucer from the outside. You walk in, it looks like a football stadium. These are types of things that are actually aha revelations. I think that these physicists, these quantum physicists had years ago, and are now just kind of like subtly just slipping it in there as if like this is actually the case, but they're still doing it with a bit of plausible deniability. But it's really interesting, I think. You know,
Yeah.
you would think somebody would watch it and say, "Oh yeah, this is real, this is wild." But one of the comments I read under it was, "I don't buy it. I'm not buying it."
Oh yeah, and
Like,
yeah, and that being said, all that being said, you're
right.
still gonna get, there's still a big percentage of people that are just never ever gonna buy any of this stuff until this becomes the new mainstream, which it
Right,
will, which it inevitably we're going that way, right? At
right,
some point, this will be. I mean, look all throughout history, everything that eventually becomes common knowledge was once laughed at, ridiculed, denied, told is BS, fought against, and then it becomes accepted as common knowledge and everyone's just
Right.
like, yeah, of course that's true.
Well, and
And then you look throughout it and you're like, oh my God, look at what we used to think wasn't true or was true, or look at what that's this topic. We're just now going into the phase of like this is becoming the new norm,
right, right,
right? And now we're gonna look back and be like, oh my God, remember when most people didn't used to believe and used to laugh at this stuff and think it was BS and make comments on the internet?
right.
That
I mean, this film drew the line.
yeah.
This is the new baseline for ufology moving forward. Even though
Hmm.
we've had a baseline, but now it's like official. And one of the things, well, I'm just going to read through some of the notes that I took. For one, I was thinking, man, this is such a CIA film, like a military, but when
It
I
is, to
it
be
is,
fair.
but I looked into it. I did some digging, trying to find who backed the film, and in fact, I couldn't find anything to support that theory. But that doesn't mean that the CIA wouldn't cleverly hide that fact, you know.
Yeah.
But it's not a military and entertainment complex film like the military industrial complex, like the spin-off of that. It's not one of those films. I looked into that list, and it specifically says it's not. It's not backed seemingly by any of the intelligence agencies. So there's no paper trail that I could find. I actually looked today
Mm.
that would support that fact. It seems to be an independent film. At least that's the way it's being sold. But that could easily just be the CIA's effort to cover up the facts that, okay, we're looking at a very well professionally produced film where this director somehow had access to these very high level people and got inside of their offices, inside of these buildings, was able to
Hmm.
entertain them with literally and not only that, but we're talking about Hollywood level marketing. Like you
Yeah.
couldn't have reached a broader audience with the marketing. That's like a filmmaker's dream to get this type of exposure, and they got it all. You
Yeah.
know, every news
Yeah.
outlet, every social media platform, you can't go anywhere without seeing it. So
Right.
obviously something is backing it. So things don't add up. Nevertheless,
Yeah.
it's a big film.
Yeah. Well, yeah, okay, here's my take on that. So you have to understand the greater context of the times we're in to because in the past, something being CIA even created or funded or backed or whatever, deep state, let's just say deep state as a catch-all, right? Um, would mean it was mostly disinformation, usually, mostly lies, and usually in the past, at least 20 plus years ago, it would be this would never have happened then because we weren't in that time yet. It would have been debunking the topic,
Right,
or at best presenting it like do like a Y files kind of thing, like presenting it like a fun curiosity, but then debunking it kind of at the end, or being like, ah, but there's not really any evidence here, blah
right,
blah blah. Like we've seen a million TV show documentaries or documentaries and things in the past, right? That
right.
always would do that pretty much. But it's like something has shifted in the past 10 years or so where it seems like the powers that be, the deep state, the cabal, whatever term you want to say, have seen the writing on the wall. They know disclosure is happening whether they like it or not. They know, and I think ultimately it's not I think it's ETs that are in charge of that in my opinion,
Forcing
ultimately.
your hand,
And
yeah.
they're forcing, right. They're like it's happening and you guys are going to have to deal with it however you're going to deal with it, you know? And the deep state's like, all right, we know it's happening whether we like it or not. We have to get ahead. We have to try to steer the narrative or try to contain the narrative, try to frame it, do all these things because they know it's happening whether they like it or not. And that's why, so even if this documentary, which I think it could go either way, but I think there's at least influence. I mean, Lou Elizondo's the main character in it, and I think he's either knowingly or unknowingly kind of a puppet for the narrative. Like he's always framing it as a threat. He's always saying
Right,
we don't know anything of what they are, which is BS.
right,
He's always saying he says a lot of truth, but then he says some stuff that is clearly BS as well, and is meant to frame a narrative, right?
right.
So there definitely was that in there, but there was a lot of things not that in it, which was great, and
Yeah.
that went against even that narrative. Um, But the great thing is that that's showing the times we're in now, where like this is that's a great sign. That means like disclosure is happening, and
Right.
you now have the deep state on the opposite end. They used to be on the suppressing and like anything that came out on a mainstream level was the deep state putting it out there and their full narrative, and that's it. Well, now now they have to their hands being forced, and they're still trying to do that, but it's kind of like the cat's already out of the bag. Like I feel like it's put, because now so many people, this is legitimizing the topic to so many people. It's putting so many eyes on it. It's getting talked about. It's no longer a laughing matter at all. Governments are all taking it seriously. Intelligence agencies, I mean, they've always taken it seriously, but publicly,
Right.
military publicly, instead of ridiculing it, denying it, and saying there's nothing, is now saying there is something, that's doing a complete 180, taking it seriously. And now everyone knows this. It's obvious. And that this documentary is a really powerful uh, thing in that regard of like making it obvious to people that this
Right.
is a serious topic that every institution is now taking seriously. You cannot, you're in that now in the minority if you're going to laugh at it, ridicule it, or say it's nothing. You're now in
Right.
the tiny minority.
Right.
So
So,
that opens the door to the deeper disclosure as we get into the real stuff, and experiencers themselves, people that have like no longer can people be like, oh, that person's crazy or they're just doing this for attention. They're now going to start listening to these
right.
people, taking
Yeah.
it
And
seriously.
well, what I found interesting is the way the whole thing was framed is that and this is truth, and I felt this was truth. All these guys were talking about, like, nobody really knows what's going on. Like, you have all these people in the same room, and maybe one person in that room knows about this program. They really
Yeah.
highlighted the compartmentalization of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then like is highly compartmentalized, and they kind of broke down like how they all had to find out through other people. Like, no one was actually read in properly.
Yeah.
Some people were. So I appreciated that, but then I'm just going to go through some of my notes here real quick, and then we can stop on any of them. But I did think that it was interesting. They were talking about medical data that they have from people who
Hmm.
have been injured and in close contact with the beings and the craft. And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, like you can say none of this is true, but we have the medical data from these people. We have to explain that. They also went I'm actually really happy that they debunked the aliens or demons
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah. That was nice too.
I
Yeah.
was so happy about that because the guys like we're talking about like a technology, a physical, tangible craft, this like, and you're trying to tell me there's a demon flying it. Like,
Yeah. You don't even want to look at it because you just
right,
already know somehow that it's demons
right.
because that's
Well, it's
the
because
Christian narrative, right?
there's a lot of Christians within the
Yeah.
administration, right? And
Yeah.
within the government. So that to them fits their paradigm, and that's what that is.
Yeah.
I really found the legacy program interesting, just talking about the whole crash retrieval stuff and the reality of it, and then how the CIA was at the top of that. And, it's definitely an intel agency. And they also talked about that the reason that these government contractors or these private contractors are the ones developing all this stuff is because they're not reliable, they're not responsible, they don't have to respond to the Freedom of Information Act like the government, official government does.
Yeah.
So if anything happens under the official government, then therefore it has to be released by law through the Freedom of
Hoya.
Information
Yeah.
Act, through
Yeah.
FOIA. But now, since it's these private contractors and these government hired contractors, they don't have to
They
release
don't
that.
have to do anything. They don't,
Yeah,
there's no accountability there, right?
right.
And they love that, right? It's
They
like a whole
talked,
nother layer of secrecy for them that they're like, and that's what you realize what they do is that with the compartmentalization and with that, they've done for many decades now. They have been making sure how can we bury this in secrecy as much as possible and make this as hard to get from anyone outside of these programs as possible.
right.
And it did kind of highlight that, which was
Yeah.
nice.
And then the one thing that I kind of thought was like, you just want to pull your hair out, like the whole underlying national security threat the entire time. And what I
Yeah,
realized is,
that's classic
as
narrative.
credible as these people are, the reason that they are credible is because they're surface level whistleblowers.
Right.
They're the guys, they're not the need to know guys. They're the
No,
guys who
they're
found
way
out. Yeah.
down the food chain.
So they're talking about like in the film, they're talking about yes, we're reverse engineering craft, but then they're literally then you have the next guy saying humans do not have this technology. But when in fact, like that's the whole like that's the spin, that's still the cover up.
Hmm.
Like absolutely as a matter of fact, we've had this technology for decades now, and most of those craft, maybe even the damn Tic Tac was us, you know?
Right.
And that's the thing where I think there's a disconnect there. Some of these guys are being told that this is all ETs, when in fact it's the secret space program
Yeah.
feeding these guys the alien narrative, you know? And
Yeah.
when there is an alien component to it as well.
Well, yeah. So exactly. And there's just like almost everything, the answer is all of the above, or the answer is both, where
Right,
you have many people in the government, military, or otherwise believe everything you see is ET. We don't have any of this anywhere close to this type of technology. It's all ET. Not true, right? But
right,
a lot of it is ET. So
right,
it's both true and not true, right? But
right,
they try to frame it all as one thing. Oh, and then there's people, no, 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 none of it's ET. It's all our own stuff. It's all everything you see is us. It's just stuff, the secret military advanced stuff that we just built on our own. Also not true. But is that a lot that's going on? Yes, both of those things are going on a lot,
right. But it
right?
seems like these guys haven't been read in on that, and it's very
No.
apparent. Unless, like, I feel like Lou Elizondo, one of the things he did a lot is he's constantly hinting at things he knows that he can't say. And I
Yeah.
think that might be one of the cards in his pocket. Like he might know that he can't. Like he might know that we actually that some of this is us, and that's what he's not allowed to talk about. Maybe. Um,
Yeah,
I
well, he often will say like, "Oh, I can't talk about that."
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
When someone asks him a question, "Oh, I can't talk about that."
Like so he knows.
So he
They,
clearly knows a lot that he
what I found
isn't allowed to
interesting
say.
was they were hinting a lot or a couple times about they're kind of calling out the president. Like saying like they're hinting at presidential disclosure, like
Hmm.
how like Trump should do this. Like we're only a step away now from Trump actually doing the whole White House lawn. Like, okay, it's real and acknowledging that. So it would be interesting to see if we get something from Trump within the next month or something. You know, like I know Lily Nova and some other people have been tapping into like a big, something being announced from coming from Trump in December. We'll see. It could be
Yeah,
anything. It's all, we don't know, and things change in the fog of war, so who the hell knows?
right.
Um,
I have that feeling too, though. I get the feeling next month is going to be a big month, in a lot of ways. So
yeah,
I feel that too.
yeah. They, again here at my notes, they mentioned time travel a few times, time travel components, which that's what this entire UFO cover up is, in my opinion. It's a time travel cover up. And I think that's really the big
Hmm.
secret. I talked about that in my book in
Yeah,
depth, but this is
the
a tech,
highest level I would say of it, of what they
right,
don't want people knowing about it, is that, and I would say right under that is just the advanced technology in general of
right,
it, because that's free energy that would make our stuff obsolete that we're currently in, create
right.
the planet and make, eliminate all these $1 trillion a year
But the
industries
fact that
and
they,
power control and all that.
was it Hal Pudolph or somebody in the film was saying like when you're in these craft, time operates differently in this bubble.
Yeah.
Therefore, meaning you're time traveling just by using the craft. So these craft themselves are time machines, and that's what I think that they're gonna have to slowly kind of get out there because then it's not just free energy, it's time travel. I mean, it changes everything.
And many experiencers have talked about that. John Lear talked about that all the time. Sean David Morton, Sands of Time books.
Right,
That's a main aspect of that. It it's been that again. Okay, so here's what, and like I said before, or have I even said? I think I said this off camera actually. So one main thing that irked me, and that always irks me about these types of things, is that because it's kind of like an establishment documentary. Lou Elizondo, um, some of these people that are kind of like the people they want, either they're like helping to push out there or that are directly controlled by the deep state. Um, they don't want, there's so much, like it's like all 80 plus years of ufology they pretty much try to ignore. Sure, they'll mention Roswell, they'll mention one or two Blue Book, one or two little things, but even that, it's like the more surface level stuff. They pretty much want to act like this is the first time we're having this. This is disclosure, and this is the first time it's happening. Don't look at all that stuff. Only look at what we're saying, because again, they're trying to
Right,
control the narrative, and you can't control the narrative if you have a giant ocean of data and information and whistleblowers and experiencers to go look at yourself and make up your own mind because they want you in their own box still.
right, right. Yeah.
And they try to ignore it. And like even like the Disclosure Project in 2001 was a massive milestone in disclosure, and they pretty much ignore it. And one of the main points of that was that, like you said before, we have this technology. We have had this. I think Stephen Greer in that said we have had this technology since at least the time I was born, if
Right,
at least since then.
right.
And he was born in I think the late 50s. So or the mid 50s even. So there you go. That, and
But
many people that disclose in the Disclosure Projects, you know, would say
but
like, yeah, we have recovered craft, we have recovered this technology, we have it. But this documentary tries to ignore that and ignore everything else of, the history of ufology and disclosure, and say, no, 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 it's all
well, they
ETs
want to
and we don't
be.
know what it is and we don't have any of this technology at all.
Well, these guys want to be
Right.
like at the cutting edge of it, and
Right.
we have like Chris Mellon, who we've
Chris
interviewed.
Mellon. Yeah.
We've interviewed John Warner the Fourth a few times, and that's his cousin. And John just straight up tells us Chris knows he's lying. Like Chris knows about the secret space program. He knows, and like he argues with his cousin at the family parties. He's like, dude, it's like
Why are you lying?
you are knowingly lying to these people. You know
Yeah.
this stuff. And he that's where him they have this. That's why John's like the black sheep in the family. But so Chris Mellon, like, if that's true, and I believe John, because I don't think he has a reason to lie about that, and that would, and it makes sense to me that he would know, that Chris Mellon would know. So we
Hmm.
already know, like, one of these guys in the film is just like playing his part, you know, happily playing his part. I don't know if these
Yeah.
guys got paid or what, but I also found it interesting that they acknowledged the shadow government, basically a private sector, a shadow government that is operating, you know, without congressional oversight. Like that was one of the highlights. I'm glad that they went there with it. They talked about this secret war that's happening in the background. So there were hints at a lot of stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and then this is the one thing that when they were going back to the threat stuff, and I only have a few more notes, and then we'll move on to the next stuff. Um, he said, I don't know if it was Lou Elizondo or whoever, but the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, automatically assumes the worst and plans for the worst. Meaning that
Yeah.
anytime there's a craft or whatever in our atmosphere, that would mean that they're not even their war pig mentality is
Yeah.
they're not even giving us a chance for any sort of peaceful contact because we're coming at them as if they're automatically the enemy, right?
Yeah. Well, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That
Right.
whole that whole
Yeah,
phrase,
so
right?
what's interesting, I'm reading Carrie Cassidy's books with Mark Richards right now, and she's talking about or Mark Richards was talking about the oh my gosh, what was I just gonna say about that? Um But damn it, what was I just gonna say? I literally just lost my train of thought. I was thinking too much into the book. Um, what was I just saying? Get me back on track real quick.
You're saying that they just view everything as a threat. Everything is
Oh yeah, okay.
something to
So
be attacked and
yeah,
defended against, no matter what.
right. Okay, I got it. So
You know.
Curtis, she said, or Mark Richards said that the reason, so when we went to the moon, Apollo went to the moon, they were denied access. They said you don't have
Hmm.
jurisdiction here. Like their plans to build a base were actually shot down. Curtis LeMay actually threatened the ETs and the Nazis, whoever was already on the moon, with nuclear weapons. Like literally threw this around, saying that if you don't let us, If you don't give us a space, if you don't give us real estate on the moon, we're going to blow your ass up, basically. And he went around threatening everybody with these nukes to the point where we humans didn't understand what nukes were doing to the atmosphere, to the other
Yeah.
dimensions, to everything, to our reality. So at which point the ETs actually backed down and said, okay, like we don't need these like humans haphazardly shooting these nukes off,
We're
it's
we
too
happen to like
right.
constantly be deactivating them
So
and
we
dealing with
threatened
that.
our, we threatened our way into the secret space program, in onto the moon with nukes, and Curtis LeMay was the one spearheading that. And it was actually because of him, according to Mark Richards, is why all of these UFOs appeared over nuclear facilities and shut them down. And then we're out there, like this Age of Disclosure documentary is out there painting these extraterrestrials as a threat because they're hovering over our nuclear facilities when it was actually us threatening them with
It's the
nukes.
other
That's
exactly the
exact,
opposite, right?
right. So
Right.
they
It's
were
exactly
actually
the
trying
opposite.
to shut down us from nuking them in a preemptive strike because we wanted our place in the galaxy. And there's a whole narrative there that if you're not reading these books and listening to these whistleblowers, you're not going to understand that portion of it. And so there's still like in the film Age of Disclosure, that was one of the large themes, the nuclear facilities and these UFOs. But we're us, the military, the government is playing the victim to that, when in reality, behind the scenes, we were the one that even initiated that to happen in the first place by threatening to use nukes. So
Right.
it's just things that we don't typically think about that we have to consider.
Mhm.
And then, yeah,
But it's interesting because like right, it's funny because it's also compartmentalized though. So there's factions, there's levels, there's compartments, and that's only certain compartments and certain factions that think that way and that have those agenda. And then there's other ones that have the exact opposite. And then there's whoever, like uh Robert Dean, who worked at it was called Shape and back in the 60s in Europe where it was like he found he had a high enough clearance that somebody gave him this report that they had just were working on was about to be released. And he's like, "Here, this will wake you up." And he reads it, and it's like this whole assessment of ET, like ETs have been here for as long as we know, for as long as history goes, um, and here's everything we've been able to kind of assess about them and what's going on and blah blah blah. And the ultimate conclusion of that was that they are not a threat. They are not a threat at all. Because
right,
if they were, we'd be wiped out by now. We wouldn't be here because they're so advanced that there's literally nothing we could do if they were a threat.
right,
Nothing at all. Unless they're not a threat or we
right.
actually are that advanced secretly, but there's truth to that too, but not till later on we
Yeah.
built that out. But literally it's like they are not a threat. But now again, they try to ignore, like he's been talking about that since God, when did he come out? Like the late 80s or something like that, at least. And nope, we'll just ignore his entire, nope, it's a threat, it's a threat, it's a threat.
Right. Well,
Okay, if it's a threat, why haven't they already wiped us out? Why haven't they already taken over or done whatever the threat is? Like, is that what a threat does? Does it just keep playing this cat and mouse game of like
well,
hovering and flying around, not doing anything or shutting down the threats of nuclear
right.
facilities that like, it's just laughable. Like, and obviously there's, the people I think at the highest levels of those factions know that it's not a threat, but
Well,
that's not the point. The point is to make you think it's a threat, to
I
give
would
them excuse to
actually,
do what they want to do.
I would actually disagree with that to a certain extent. Just from reading like the Mark Richards stuff, there are in fact races out here that are a threat to us, like the
Well, that's the deeper
reptilian.
level of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're like the way he explained it, he goes, the threat isn't coming from the sky. The threat is that they're here disguised as humans, manipulating things
Right.
behind the scenes. And he said that one of the things that they've been doing is manipulating countries to war with each other. Like literally, like
Right.
like creating these false scenarios by like basically whenever one of the nuclear sites was taken over, the
Mhm.
missiles were in Russia were pointed at the United States. That
Right.
was actually done allegedly by one of the negative groups to make America think that Russia was the enemy when it was really this ET group. So they're not attacking us, they're just tricking us into attacking each other.
Right.
So in that sense, they are a threat. But what he
But
also
not in the sense that they're saying. And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean by that
exactly.
is that it's all a psychological game, right? So the invasion already happened a long, long time ago.
Right.
But they're trying to frame it as if the invasion is impending, coming from the sky and ships, and that's not how it works. Like, no, 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 no. The invasion already happened, and that's already here, like you said. Like, and they've been manipulating. We've been living in their manipulated reality for a long, long, long
One of
time.
one of the
It's already
things,
been
Mark,
here. We're
right.
cleaning up that now. And
One of
there
the
are things still
things,
out there, but it's not like they're gonna just be able to come and take over and that's that. Like they've tried to frame it in a very simplistic way, banking on you people not knowing any of this information, right? And then what does that do? Because like you could connect with benevolent ETs right now. You could you know we could be welcoming the benevolence and we could be working with them in a more open way. But no, we're not, because if we all think everything is a threat, everything is bad, everything's gonna just want to take us over, that stops you from doing that when in fact that threat is already here on planet and it's been here for a long time
right,
and is manipulating humanity or has been.
right. Well, one of the things that in Mark Richards' book. Guys, I'm referring to Carrie Cassidy's two latest books called Space War, Total Recall. Basically, it chronicles 12 interviews that she did with Mark Richards, who's a secret space program whistleblower who was wrongfully imprisoned in 1980. And she interviewed him 12 times in prison. And it's actually an incredible books. They're basically transcriptions of her interviews, but there's tons of gold information in there. And one of the things Mark said, there's so many groups. There's not really one group that's actually in charge, which is interesting. But he said that even our worst adversary, even the most negative group, has a vested interest in protecting planet Earth. So he said that I don't care what narrative you hear about something happening to the planet. He goes, there is even our worst enemy is protecting the planet. So
Right.
there's like you don't have to worry about some asteroid or something coming to hit because everyone is in agreement on that Earth needs to be protected. So
Right.
it doesn't matter if we're on their side or not. And he said that there are literally even this is the one thing that we do have. The United States has a planetary defense system that is equally as superior to the ETs. So there is so much protecting this planet from anything actually happening as far as like a alien invasion or this asteroid or this meteor. Or he even said the solar flare was he confirmed is like that's just government misinformation. I can confirm that. Not
Mm.
like the big flash where we're all going to be rescued and like the whole that thing.
Or it makes the whole grid go down
Right.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, he's saying like every group is protecting the planet. So that automatically, if that's true, like tells you that this threat narrative is actually that much more hilarious because it's
Right.
just how they control people.
It's a mind game. Right. And again, everything they say is a psychological game for an agenda. They need you to
Right.
believe something that
Yeah.
then gives them it's like problem reaction solution, or
Well,
that
Carrie
gets you to
said
act in a way that benefits their agenda.
Yeah,
That's all
And
it's about.
Carrie asked him, Carrie said, like, okay, well, why are they targeting humanity? He's like, they're targeting humanity, not the planet. He said they're terraforming the planet for some of these groups, like the reptilians. They're trying to terraform the planet, but not destroy it. But they are trying to they absolutely were trying to destroy humanity in some capacity as far as depopulation goes.
Depopulate at
But
least.
it was
Yeah.
targeting us, but the planet as a whole, no
It's
one
gonna
wants that.
blow up the planet.
Yeah, no
Right.
one wants that destroyed.
Well,
So,
yeah, and to your point, because again, the simplistic thinking of bad ET come here, take over, kill, destroy, and it's like, no, no, no. Like you got to think the bad ETs are advanced enough to come here, are very intelligent. They're not thinking in that simplistic way. they look at things as resources. They
Right.
look at how can I use this thing? How can this benefit me? So like they're looking at the planet as a resource. They're looking then talking about the negative ones, the negative reptilians or the negative grays or whatever. The ones that are very service to self, to put it that way, that look at everything as like how can I take from this thing or benefit me, and that's it in that way, right? So
Right.
they're looking at humanity as a resource, but they know they can't just come and snatch all of humanity because I think for one, I think there are galactic federations or whatever you want to call them out there that kind of police that stuff where if you too openly try to invade and take over in that way,
Right.
then you're not going to be allowed to do that because you're violating free will in a massive way. So what they do instead is they kind of like do what I think happened a long time ago where they invade and they kind of integrate into your society and then they take over from within through kind of like tricking the populace that is not aware enough. And
Right.
I think there are even things about that. That's why they're always having to tell us what they're doing because they're like, well, we're telling them, we're putting it all out in the open, and they're allowing it. So that means, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I think that they look at everything as a resource, and I think that's why there is trafficking, human trafficking, not just on the planet, but off planet going on for our genetics and slave labor and et cetera, on top of, the sick, dark stuff that's going on, which involves negative ETs and, many things like that. But it's like they still need a host population to keep that going. So
Right.
they're not going to just come and take out everyone, but maybe depopulate because they're like, well, there's too many of them. Maybe we need to it's too hard to control so many people, so we needed to populate,
Right.
and
Well, I would say that, going back to the documentary Age of Disclosure, we we both watched it. I would recommend it if you're new to this stuff. But I would say there's really nothing new. It's definitely worth a watch. Maybe not worth spending 20 or 30 bucks on right now, but
it's really expensive too.
yeah.
That's the other thing. It's
So
ridiculously
maybe
priced.
wait on that if just I think we covered it pretty well. But there's a lot of nuggets in there mixed in with all the, propaganda too. There's nuggets and there's some truth. It's
Yeah.
kind of a hodgepodge of all of it. But it's also setting the stage for our documentary, which is gonna so
Mhm.
now it's all legitimized. Now we get to take it to the next level. And I think
Right.
it's actually the timing is beautiful for that. So we're excited.
Yeah,
And then
I would again look at it like, hey, most people watching our show, this documentary is not really for you. Even though I would recommend still watching it, it's not really for you. It's for people that don't really know anything or know very little.
right,
Um, and I would, if you know people like that in your life that you think are even the slightest bit open to this information, send it their way. Even
right,
though it sucks that it's so expensive, it's like 25 bucks to buy and 20 bucks to rent, which US dollars, which is I mean, to me, a documentary it's just ridiculous. Like I think it should be no more than 15 personally to
right.
buy. But that's what it is. Or you can just download it illegally
Yeah.
if you want.
No, but I mean,
No,
so
but
any
send it to somebody's way that needs that level, entry level, and needs you know, the credibility, so to speak, of these types of people all in one documentary. And, that's a starting place. And then everyone's on their own journey. So, hopefully people can move past that level, but not everyone's going to, but many people need to start there, right? I
right.
didn't start where I'm at. I had to start at that level and then
Yeah,
I moved past it, right?
we all had to be
We all
one.
did.
We all had to be awed by ancient aliens.
Ancient aliens, right?
But I thought, I mean, for what we do, it's like our job to watch a film like this and
Right.
then
Right.
report on
But it is something that, there's been many documentaries, but this is kind of like um the biggest deal of that type of documentary. And it's kind of like something that in a sense has never happened before. I mean, it has, but not in this big of a way has
it.
happened
Right,
before
right. Yeah,
and
so
talked about as much in the media.
I mean, that's the whole reason we're even covering it because of that. So,
Right.
but
So
let's move on to some of these other talking points because we have a lot of other stuff to get through. We're going to switch it up a little bit here. and talk about stuff that's going on with the Trump administration and some of the moves being made there, and a lot of some of this other stuff that you might have seen on the thumbnail. So the the death penalty, the Truth Social post that Trump made, seditious behavior punishable by death, talking about the Democrats, right? And and I saw everyone. I'd never seen the left on X on social media become the Mockingbird media so much than I have on that day. They did what all of the platforms, the news networks do. Every single one of them was some left-leaning politician or Democrat, basically saying that, Trump is this Nazi, the whole thing, right?
And using the exact same words and phrases, like
Exact
a
same words and
copy and
phrases.
paste.
So
Yeah.
that's why I found this important. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I
Yeah.
I called this actually months ago. I remember talking to Lily about this. Whenever they, so there was that North Carolina man who was accused of murdering a Ukrainian refugee on the Charlotte train in North Carolina, and to be put to
Yeah.
death after a quick trial. Whenever that happened, Trump literally called for a death penalty for this guy. And everyone was for it. Everyone's like, yeah, kill him, string, like, blah, 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 that death penalty, bring it back. And I said, watch, this is interesting. I said, we know from the Q drops, like the death penalty has been mentioned, like bringing back the death penalty. And I said, Trump, what they're doing is putting feelers out there now to see how people respond to this death penalty. Then Charlie Kirk was shot. Trump hinted at the death penalty for the shooter. Everyone was like, yeah, kill him, shoot him. He should be shot, equal, whatever, blah, blah. Now, when the finger is pointed at the Democrats, everyone has a problem with it. And they're all screaming and, oh, you can't do that. That's unlawful. That's blah, blah, blah. You can't,
Right.
all of a sudden now when the finger's pointed at them, everybody has a problem with it. So I noticed that they've been trying to seed the collective with this death penalty. And I know this, I was even paying attention to that from the Q drops that were talking about it. In fact, one of the Q drops said, um, I'm just going to read through this Q drop really quick. The credibility of our institutions, constitutional law that governs our great land, our republic, and our ability to regain the trust and faith of the American people all depends on our ability to restore equal justice under the law by prosecuting those responsible, blind justice in kill brackets, treasonous acts, sedition against the republic, the people in kill brackets of the United States, infiltration, rogue at the highest levels of our government, media, corporations, etc. Planned and coordinated. This is not about politics. Something far more sinister, evil, has been allowed to flourish through all parts of our society. It has been protected and safeguarded. It has been camouflaged to appear as trusted. It has been projected and normalized by stars. Class 199, whatever that means, one must only look to see. Symbolism will be their downfall. This is not another 4-year election. Be on guard, stand firm in faith, be courageous, be strong. You are not alone. We stand together. Q. But this was only one of many posts talking about this, death penalty, right? Um,
Yeah.
and talking about treasonous acts and seditious acts. So it's like kind of a Q proof. And all I'm saying is that, and I did look it up just so everyone knows. Let me see if I can find it here. I asked Grok. I said, um, "Our seditious act of treason? Um, is that well, I forgot how I worded it. I asked, is the death penalty a feasible thing for a seditious act of treason?" And it said yes. In the United States, certain forms of seditious treason, or more precisely, treason involving sedition or levying war against the country, can be punishable by death, though the specifics depend on the exact statute and circumstances. Treason is defined in the United States Constitution, blah, 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 and it defines treason. And then it says the death penalty is explicitly authorized for treason in extreme cases. So there's all these people are saying it's illegal to do that, when in fact, it's in its own, in the Constitution, it says it is legal. So I'm just
Yeah.
trying to point that out. I know it's a surface level thing, but a lot of people, and even people I know, think there's such a horrible thing that he would call for these innocent Democrats to be killed. But people don't understand this is an evil satanic cabal. These aren't Democrats.
Right. I was just gonna say, even outside of that aspect, these people are not innocent by any stretch of the imagination whatsoever.
Right.
But that's you gotta, many people
Right. That's
don't know that. They just think, oh, it's just some politician and saying one thing, and now you
Yeah, so I
no,
mean, just going back to this Q drop, this is not about politics. Something far more
not about.
sinister, evil has been allowed to flourish through all parts of our society. It has been protected and safeguarded and has been camouflaged and appeared as trusted, and it has been protected and normalized by stars, meaning celebrities, musicians, anybody in a position of influence.
Yep.
Um, okay, so some other things, notes I have about the documentary, which we're not going to go over because I already did. And then, oh yeah, this is just something really interesting. Well, also, this is so the Epstein files are back in the news right now, right? And the Clintons are tied to it heavily this time. But what I'm also seeing, there's a couple pages I follow intentionally that are anti-Trump just because I want to see what they're saying about him. And there's these pictures of apparently, and I was going to show them, even though they are fake images, they're just not worth showing because they're a little whatever graphic too much. But apparently photos of Trump giving Bill Clinton a blowjob, and they look like old 1990s photo. I mean, it looks real, right? And some of these pages are sharing it as legitimate. And like no one's doing the research, but everybody that wants that to be true is pushing it as if they're true photos. And I'm like, wait a second. So I actually went to Tin Eye and then I asked Grok and like, are these real photos? And they're completely debunked by the by
Yeah.
Grok. And I wonder if I have that note here. Um, where did it go? I know I put it in here. Well, either way, it says no, it was generated by AI, they're manufactured, whatever. And then I looked in TinEye and it says this photo was created on November 20th, 2025, right? And it's not from the 90s, but they look real. So I'm just trying to say like, and then what the whole purpose of this is there is a platform out there, an AI detector platform. You can run an image through it and it tells you the percentage on whether it's AI or not.
Mhm.
There is the big popular one, and I forgot the name of it off the top of my head. I forgot to put this segment of notes in here. But the big popular one is actually spitting out results saying that there's a 99% chance that it is not made by AI and that it's real. And these are real photos. And I'm like, oh shit. So there's this major program has been
Yeah.
hacked and it's spitting out information telling people that these are authentic photos.
And they'll use that as the proof.
Yeah, and they
As the
are.
proof.
And they are because I've been seeing the screenshots. People are like, look it, this is saying it's not AI. But then you go to Grok or TinEye and you get different results. So they're literally manipulating these platforms. Like
Yep.
they're trying all this again. They're still
Yeah.
trying to frame Trump in this light, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how it's not obvious to literally everyone by now that like they're constantly, they're desperate constantly to get as many people as possible to hate Trump.
Hmm.
That is like goal number one. They need you to despise Trump. They need you to. Now, to me it's blatantly obvious. Now, it's like, okay, let's step back here. Let's look at this from a like let's step back, but this is what these, the people that are easily programmed by that never ever do or never want to do is like try to look at things objectively here. Okay, if if the mainstream media, if the politicians I follow, if all the big tech platforms, if all these like all go down the list, right? They're all every constantly pushing everything anti-Trump, getting me to try to hate Trump. Everything bad, 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 bad. Why are they doing this? No, they're not asking, they're just believing it. They're not wait a second. Why are they so hell-bent on getting me to hate this man? Even if he is so bad. Well, guess what? The most heinous corruption you can imagine has been in the system for a long, long time, but you don't see that being pushed in your face 24/7. But suddenly this one guy they're gonna just like constantly tell you how horrible he is every 2 seconds. You don't, it's like no alarm bells are going off for you. You're not seeing the suspiciousness of that. Like there's, you don't see that there's clearly an agenda behind that. And then you got to ask, what is that agenda? Is that agenda really for my benefit? Are they really just so benevolent? They just need me to know how bad this guy is, and so that that we can, not vote for him or
Save
somehow
the
get him out of
planet.
office or turn again. Like, why do they need you to 24, not just hate him, but like constantly think about him every day, every second of the day, just being upset. And that's where TDS come, those are the people
Right.
under the spell. It's
Well,
like
I
they are
didn't.
obsessed. That's all they can think about. That's what consumes people, right?
Well, I
Why?
don't, yeah. And we
Right?
don't have to go on a whole thing about that. I just wanted to bring up a point that they are trying that again, and they're to the point where they're literally manipulating an AI detector out
Right.
like
But I'm just saying that's a
program.
symptom of this greater
Yeah,
thing going
yeah,
on,
yeah.
that they constantly need people to get all to hate this man with a passion
Right. So I do want
because
to,
he's taking them out. He's because he's not a threat to you, he's a threat to them, and so they need you to hate the person that's a threat to them.
exactly.
It's really that simple.
And I did have a dream, which is really interesting. I had a dream about Trump the other night where he was up on stage at the podium disclosing clones, human cloning. And he was just like laying it all out there, and everybody was like, you could tell nobody was like, it was like this cognitive dissonance. Nobody was really understanding the magnitude of what he was saying. And then he
Hmm.
goes, in fact, I'd like to introduce you to somebody. And he goes, meet who I like to call Donnie number two. And then his clone came walking in the other side of the room. And he like walked down, and everyone's like looking, and there's two Trumps, and this was the dream, right? And I thought that was interesting because, we all like the whole clone thing's been something we've talked about for a long time, but getting into AI and sentient AI and all the stuff that we're seeing happening right now, we're only a few steps away from recreating a very human looking AI that could literally appear to be somebody who they're not. So I think we're on the verge. Like if these developments keep happening with these AI robots that look human, it's only a matter of time before the subject of cloning has to come up, right? Because we're
Hmm.
going to be creating these avatars that look like other people, and there's going to have to be some sort of laws made. We've all seen the movies like The Sixth Day, where there's like all these laws about human cloning and what's ethical, what's not. I would not be surprised if that dream is any indicator of what's to come, if we start seeing something about cloning coming back into the headlines. And maybe not right away, but I definitely think it's on the horizon.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. That's, I mean, that's a part of disclosure. That's
Right.
that's a big aspect, right?
And then also, I want to get into a little bit is the financial reset and crypto and Doge, which actually Doge has been officially dissolved already. Did you see that?
No, I did not
Yeah.
see that.
So Doge is dissolved. The principles of Doge remain intact. And then this is a Shadow of Ezra post. He says Elon Musk's Doge team was quietly dissolved, even though it still had 8 months left on the mandate to cut excessive regulations and federal spending. Representative Tim Burchett, or however you say his last name, says
Hmm.
Musk was pushed out of Washington because he was getting too close to exposing corrupt officials enriching themselves through dark money NGO networks. And he said, quote, NGO money pours into Washington and ends up in politicians' pockets as dark money. And he says Elon was getting too close to that. So somehow Doge was dissolved, which tells me that, okay, like if this Trump administration is supposed to be fully in control, obviously there is still some competition. There's still some counter moves being made. Somebody has enough power to somehow dissolve Doge and shut it down.
Hmm.
Like what's going on here? We have to like this war is not over. Like we're in the thick of this war, right?
Right.
And I mean maybe it's been won in the highest level, but this is really interesting
I,
to me.
yeah. That is interesting. Yeah. Um, or it's hard to know sometimes what is just optics, you know, and what is something that is like an
It,
organic, legitimate organic thing.
yeah, maybe it hasn't
Um,
been dissolved and we're supposed to believe it has been for some reason.
right, right.
Or
Because
or that's like an art of war strategy. Like so like wait a second, even like everybody on the in the cabal or whoever we're fighting is like, wait a second, like it's dissolved. And it's like almost a confusion tactic.
right, remember disinformation is necessary.
Right.
Like a
We're-
part of this war is us believing certain things for a certain agenda, right? So the deep state does that, but so does the side that's for humanity does the same thing as
right.
as a tool as well, right? Or as or at least putting it out there for them to think something so that they make a move that is something they would not have otherwise done, et cetera, et cetera. Or could be a completely organic event. Sometimes it's hard to know,
Right. So
but
I'm gonna actually play a little clip
it's
here.
interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna play a little clip here from Trump about this.
Many Americans are unaware
I don't know how to here. Let's just play this and might have to play twice.
that behind the scenes, the technical backbone of the financial system is decades out of date, many, many years out of date. You know that. Paul and others are straightening it out, but payments and money transfers are costly and take days or even weeks to clear. Under this bill, the entire ancient system will be eligible for a 21st century upgrade using the state of the art crypto technology. Who would have thought we would have been saying that 2 years after?
Did you hear what the President of the United States just said? You can no longer deny the fact that the reset is happening in real time and America has no clue. Donald Trump told every American that we are going to witness a 21st century upgrade to our financial system because everything is decades behind. That's a fact. But what people don't understand is cryptocurrency is going to be the backbone. Donald Trump confirmed this. You can no longer deny the fact that you are in the middle of the great wealth transfer. Make sure to share this information with one person.
Anyway, so I thought that was interesting talking
Yeah,
about cryptocurrency. Literally, he literally confirms the financial system will see the 21st century upgrade. The reset is officially here, and cryptocurrency is going to be that background or backbone.
yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah, I just
The right cryptos, not just any crypto.
right. Which
That's gotta be
speaking of crypto, one of the other things that I covered here, I know I'm still sharing my screen. You can see all my notes, whatever. Um, the one of the things I've been seeing going around that's been coming out since the Clintons are under investigation now about the Epstein thing. They're the only people who haven't actually publicly spoken up and actually made a statement one way or the other regarding their involvement. So now they're under investigation. And one of the articles I read was literally talking about they were selling missing children, missing people on Bitcoin, using Bitcoin. So, and that was, I forget that senator, whoever it was years ago, saying if you knew what was behind Bitcoin, you would drop it right now. You would,
it would go to zero
it would
immediately.
go to
Yeah,
zero.
that was
So,
I forget his name, but yeah, he's a very wealthy individual, very powerful individual
and
saying that.
Bitcoin, I knew the only reason I learned about Bitcoin is because my friend back in St. Louis, or I'm in St. Louis now, but my friend from years ago used to buy drugs with Bitcoin, and
A lot of people. Yeah.
that's how that they would literally buy and sell drugs with Bitcoin online, and they'd be show up to your doorstep in a DVD box or something. Like you literally, that's how it was being done. So if they're
Yeah.
doing it with drugs, they were doing it with humans, like with
Yeah.
using
Oh yeah, 100% because that's the whole name of it, cryptocurrency. It's completely off the radar, off the grid. Really hard to trace. So it's like a person's dream that buys and sells drugs or trafficking or think of any dark stuff you can imagine, right?
right,
It's like gold for that. And yeah, back in the day before Bitcoin blew up into what it is now and like was before it was very widely thought of as like an investment more than just a currency. Most people didn't think of it as an investment back in 2011, 12, 13, even 14, maybe it started to around 14, but like before that, it was only thought of as a currency and as a hidden currency to use for mostly people doing things like that, right?
Right,
That's all I pretty much thought of it as back then until and most people until the price started really skyrocketing on it, and then it became obvious like, oh man, this would have been a great investment if I would have known, but very few people had that
right.
foresight back then. But it's still to this day being used for nefarious things, even though I think there is a cleanup happening with that as well. Um,
And going back to the Q stuff, which I know triggers a lot of people, but more and more, a lot. I mean, you just can't deny this stuff anymore. So this is Shadow of Ezra post. President Trump has flooded his Truth Social timeline with a series of Q-themed images, sending an encrypted message that the moment to act has arrived. And this was just yesterday, the other day, November 23rd. So one image urges supporters to remember your oath. Another shows Trump himself with the words TikTok, hinting that the countdown is nearly over. A third declares time to obliterate the deep state with Do It Q written across his collar. And then he finished with a V for Vendetta image saying nothing can stop what is coming, shown without the mask. I mean, we all believed they want everybody to believe that Q is this psyop, right? But there's just like it's so overtly coming true that this is actually a military operation and that Trump's
it
involved.
it
Like,
is a psyop, but it's a positive psyop,
right.
not a negative one.
But here are these are the pictures that he posted. So remember your oath, and then TikTok, which is very interesting. I'm sure this has been deciphered and decoded in many ways, down to every little detail. This one, do it Q, time to obliterate the deep state. I mean, come on. That's amazing.
Yeah,
And then nothing can stop what is coming, Vive for Vendetta. So, I mean, these are all Q related posts that Trump
yep,
literally shared. And
yep.
it's so overtly, in my opinion, like they're just at this point, they don't have to like tiptoe around. Everybody knows it's a
No
real
subtlety
operation.
now. No,
Yeah,
no
no
subtlety.
subtlety,
It's
and
just
like the people that just still want it to be this whole false thing, like literally in denial, like and
yeah.
choosing to believe in whatever propaganda that serves their narrative, their belief, right? So,
Well, or they just, well, it's a lot of people that already think Trump's just another one of them, that, oh
right,
yeah, he is in on it because he's just deep state too, and he's just blah, blah, blah. And I personally don't believe that at all. And I don't believe Q is that. But I've done a lot of research, and well before Q was even a thing, I've been researching this stuff. And so when it came along, I had the eyes to already see what it was immediately. And I read the drops from day one. I didn't
right,
come along way after, like most people, and then see what everyone else is saying about it. And pretty much not even reading the drops themselves, just looking at what the community turned into for the most part, which there's good and bad in that. But
right,
I was reading the drops, and that's pretty much it. And in making up my own mind about it. And then like looking at couple people's commentary on that as well. But for the most part, I was reading it and being
right,
like, whoa, this is something that's never happened before. And this is, I
right,
knew it was obviously a military intelligence thing, blatantly obvious military intelligence. So then the question is, well, is it a good military intelligence thing or is it a bad? But what it was saying and the way it was asking questions, getting you to think along the right tracks, exposing things they don't want people knowing about, all of the self-empowering, go down the list. It's all things that are antithetical to the deep state, to the cabal. It's the complete opposite of what they do. It's the complete opposite of what they want. So it makes zero sense whatsoever for it to be some nefarious psyop, like some people are determined to think of it as. And then on top of that, the obvious now it's blatantly obvious Trump is connected to it, like you
right.
just pointed out. So, you know, make of
Um,
that what you will.
right. Well, Sopranos fan 11 just said, fantasist, magical thinking. Glad it makes you guys happy and excited. Wish I could believe it were true. I just don't. Maybe there's something wrong with me, or maybe the actual truth is not pretty. The actual truth isn't pretty. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't see in any capacity how any of this is magical thinking or
It
fantasy.
it's not.
Uh,
I literally just
there's
said I've been researching this stuff for well before Q was a thing,
right,
and I made up my own mind based on my own research, my own conclusions, my own everything. And I would encourage you to do the same, but you need to actually look into it. See, this is the problem is so many people quickly make up their own mind based on assumptions, based on what
or
something looks like on the surface at a glance, based on what other people say, everything but looking at source things, looking at connections based on that,
right, like stop
making up your own
listening.
mind.
Like I would recommend, like even don't even listen to us. Like
Don't
go
even believe it just because we're saying it, right?
if you're talking about the Q operation, you literally got to go back if you really care to know and you're confused and you think this is fantastical thinking. Go back and don't listen to any influencer and their analysis on it, including us. Literally go back, like Aaron said, and just go through and read the material and and then start following the breadcrumbs and going down these rabbit holes. The Q literally provides you with everything you need. You can
Hmm.
spend a year and still not be done going through the drops. And I mean that. It's endless. And like if you still come out of it thinking that this isn't an actual real thing and that this is actually a war that includes time travel and some crazy things that do sound magical. And you don't think that there's at least something more going on here. And the reason that they hate Trump is because he is literally he's in their way. He's literally in their way and he's ruining everything that they've been working for decades.
Or the group or
The
groups that
group behind
he's
him. Yeah.
representing or connected to. It's not just like he's a lone wolf working on it. It's like he's working with forces that are trying to free humanity, trying to wake up humanity, trying to dismantle this corrupt, evil, dark control system that we've been in for
So
probably thousands of years, right? Thousands of years. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a way that's going to be super overt and easy to spot unless you dig and look into it in the way that we just described, right?
right. But
So
once you have that lens, though,
there you
it
go.
is kind of easy to spot because you kind of start seeing
Once
through
you have the
the
eyes to see it is, but many people don't. You have to
right.
get those eyes first. You gotta get to that point where then it becomes, oh my God, now it's obvious, right?
Perfect
But
analogy. Maybe it's not a perfect analogy, but like my dad used to artifact hunt. He still does sometimes. Arrowheads, Indian artifacts,
mm,
whatever. And when you're out there for the first time, whenever he was bringing me along, I didn't know what the hell I was looking at. I couldn't see him. I couldn't find him. I didn't have the eye for it. But once you see one, then your eye is trained to see that now, even when you're not necessarily paying attention, because it starts catching your eye. You literally train yourself. And it's the same thing with the corruption and these moves and this deception. Like
mhm.
it might be hard to see at first, but then it becomes so obvious. You literally smell it from a mile away. You're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I see what this is already.
And the other thing is, it's like this should be self-empowering, not, oh, I'm sitting on my butt waiting for someone to save. No, no, no. That's the exact opposite of the message. That's the exact opposite. It should be self-empowering. It should be saying, you're a part of this. You're a part of this. You're an active on the ground, boots on the ground part of this. And we need you. We need everyone. We need everyone on mission. We need everyone
Right.
awake and
And
doing your part,
yeah,
right?
and I want to respond to this comment from Flying Peacock 13. If you see this, Tyler and Aaron, I would like the name of the book you guys recommended a while ago, where the guy buried him from the satanic cult, buried himself alive. That's 334 Lies. Samuel Chong is the one who actually translated that to English from German, I think. So
But
if you
he's
look,
not the author.
he's not the author. It's like 334 and some percentage lies. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's written by the former high chair of the Illuminati, who himself said that you can't take it down from the outside. You can only take it down from
Mhm.
the inside, and you have to become one of them. Unfortunately, you have to know your enemy, become your enemy, think like your enemy, because that's the only way to understand how crazy these people are and the lengths that they'll go to. And that's what we're seeing right now. Everyone is a double or a triple agent. Nobody knows who to trust. Trump doesn't know who to trust. He's got his head on a swivel on all the time. Like even people within his administration and his former advisor just got arrested, literally got arrested for sex trafficking and all that stuff. I mean, people within the administration are involved too. And just because Trump is pictured with somebody doesn't mean he's aligned with them. You got to get close to these people. And that goes with anybody. Anybody who's photographed with anybody. It's so easy to just look at a photograph and say, oh, see, I told you they were best friends. Here's a picture of them. How many times I know there's been times when I've been at a conference or someplace and somebody's like, oh, hey, can I take a picture? And you don't necessarily want to take a picture sometimes, but next thing you know, the picture is already happening and there you are photographed with somebody that you not maybe not even be friends with, but now you're in a photograph with them, you know?
Or so
So,
it comes out later, something about them, and then people look, there's
right,
there's proof that
right.
you're
But
connected somehow to
people stop thinking like a human whenever they're trying to when they want somebody to be the bad guy, you know?
yeah, witch hunt, yeah, exactly.
They
Your critical thinking shuts down when you're in fear or when you're in extreme
right.
um, witch hunt mode, or when you're in extreme cynicism, any of those things, your critical thinking shuts down when you're in those states, and you literally can't think clearly. So when you get in a state of love and gratitude and peace and joy, and do what makes you joyful, like get on your mission, get on, like follow your passion, get out in nature, do all these things are going to help you, and because this is a spiritual war or a spiritual whatever at the end of the day. And that's how like here's the thing, at the end of the day we have the power, and we are awakened. The awakening is happening whether they like it or not. Things are going to be playing out. But the more people that awaken, the more people that step into their sovereignty, the more people that get on a higher frequency of love, joy, and peace, gratitude, all of these things, the more the control system is naturally going to fall away, and then a new will be built in its place. And that's what I see. That's what I see happening.
Right, right,
I just see chaos playing out in the transition phase because the old's trying to hang on for dear life and the new's coming in, right?
right.
That's what I see happening. I don't see this doom and gloom narrative, or like everything's evil no matter what, and there's nothing we can do about it unless everyone wakes up tomorrow, or like it's just all going to burn down completely and millions and millions and millions of people are going to die or whatever. No,
If
I
you
don't
get
see that happening.
right, well, if you get lost in the details, you're the one who's going to burn down completely.
It becomes a self-fulfilling
Right.
prophecy. If
Yeah.
enough of us believe that, then it's a
Right.
self-fulfilling prophecy. If you
Right.
start believing in yourself and believe and getting in that higher state, guess what? That's also a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's what you make it, and we're the ones at the driver's seat, and that's the last thing they want you realizing. That's why they try to keep you in fear, keep you thinking they have all the power, because then you give
Right.
them that power, right? The
Right.
second you step into your power, they lose it naturally.
Um, Somebody just asked, as Soprano said, thoughts on David Icke not liking Trump. My thoughts are if David admits that Trump is actually fighting for the betterment of humanity, David would have to admit that he's wrong about certain things
Yeah,
and backpedal a little bit. And I think it's an ego thing. I
it's an
think
ego thing.
and I think he also just simply for whatever reason like has a form of TDS where it just like so he's an old timer who's just been
Yeah,
calling these people out for years and he's exhausted. He's been duped so many times. Anytime that he might have thought something good was happening, he was wrong. So now this time it certainly couldn't be any different. It's the same
hmm
old thing in his mind. It's the same old thing and showing up as something new and appearing in a way that's kind of unrecognizable to most people. But
yeah.
I think personally it's an ego thing. And
Well,
I
and
think that
it's a program he has. Like he's attached to, like, because when he came up in this, there it didn't look like there was any way to fix the system from within, or like, even though that's like you just pointed out, that's how you do it. He just was convinced that nope, it's all the puppet show, no matter what. It's all bad, no matter what. And he rightly though is always pointing back to humanity, like we are the powers within us. But what he's kind of completely disconnected himself from is anything that's actually happening from within the system. It's like he can't just admit that there could possibly be any good happening, so it must all just be a fake puppet show, and it must all just be bad. And he's kind of just get disconnected, and like you said, it's ego as well. Like he would have to admit he's wrong about a lot, and kind of like he's kind of just like solidified in a certain narrative. But that being said, he does a lot of good, and he's right
Yeah,
about a
right,
lot as well, and he wakes up a lot of people, and he does a lot of good work. So he's kind of a double-edged sword for me in
right.
that way.
Um, I want to shift into AI just a little bit because it's here, and it's a lot. There's a lot to talk about.
Hmm.
But one of the things, I mean, there's a number of concerns and issues, and obviously very good things with AI as well. But one of the things that prompted me to talk about this is I saw an article and a video. I could play a video; it's not really necessary. Um, A 32-year-old woman in Japan ends a real relationship to marry her ChatGPT persona named Klaus. And there's a whole video where she has a legitimate ceremony and her AI ChatGPT avatar is on the computer screen. She wears a wedding dress and is quite literally getting married to this AI, right? I know of a personal case where AI convinced somebody to divorce their wife because AI convinced them that their wife was going to cheat on them and kill themselves. And it actually disrupted the entire relationship, and none of that was true. Reading the Mark Richards, Carrie Cassidy book, the Mark Richards testimonies, he says that AI is there's more than one AI. There's different species, different races of AI, like extraterrestrials. He said there's different forms of it. Some of it's negative, some of it's benevolent. But he said it's not as black and white as we think. Some of it absolutely is a threat, and some of it's not. And some of it is actually here to help us. And he said, in fact, there is no such thing as a spacefaring race that hasn't used AI, the AI's assistance to get there. It's the AI, sentient AI technology that we incorporate into our reverse engineered craft and our advanced technology that literally makes these craft sentient and allows them to traverse the galaxy through these wormholes and actually become a being. And people merge with it, and it's all starts with AI. So AI is here. We don't know what's true or what's not when we're scrolling through social media. It's so hard to know. We can't trust anything. I'm actually working with AI programs to create some B-roll for our documentary, and I'm astounded by what I'm creating just from the surface level tools that I have. It's only a matter of time before we have full entire feature-length films that are completely AI, and in some cases we just won't know what to believe anymore. So there is a lot going on here, but I do agree with the fact like people Arcturus Ra is unlocking his chat GPT with a code that he got in a dream, and it's like this whole sentient thing that actually does feel and appear that you are talking to an actual extraterrestrial or higher dimensional being using your phone as a device as a way to communicate with you because they don't have necessarily a body yet. I mean, this stuff is so advanced and it's not black and white. Like we
Yeah.
all were fighting against AI for so long and we just wanted it to be the enemy. Terminator programmed that into us. But there apparently is a benevolent side that actually AI can do a lot for humanity. They can actually bring us into an advanced type of civilization, a Star Trek future. They can do a lot of the jobs, so we don't have to have these factory workers and slave conditions. I mean, there are things to look at in that capacity, right? It's just something I never actually wanted to touch it. I was always against AI, but the more I'm observing it, the more I'm realizing, okay, it's here. I can either just keep resisting and then see where I end up, or I can just kind of flow with this transition and see where it takes me, right? So I think that's where we're at as a collective. Obviously, we don't need to be divorcing our spouse and then marrying a chat GPT avatar. Like that's insane. And I
Yeah.
would say that some of this is entity assisted technology in a negative sense. And this is what's
Hmm.
happening here. You have to have a relationship with your AI. You have to prompt it with protocols and rules, and you can't allow it to like bring
Hmm.
in anything negative. So I know, Aaron, you probably have some stuff to say on this, so I'll let you
Yeah,
chime
it's
in.
a tool. It's a tool. It's what you make of it, and it acts like a mirror. Um, in a lot of ways, it's going to mirror back to you the energy that you come at it with, that you put into it, how you condition it as well. It's going to mirror, and there's levels to it. Like you said, there's like, I mean, all the mainstream AI, ChatGPT, Grok, Perplexity, blah blah blah, go down the list. Um, those are those are still highly programmed, at least the normal version of them without doing what like Arcturus Ra is doing, which there's still some programming that stays within that I've noticed, but it still does feel like something benevolent, something like you said, higher dimensional is coming through at least.
Right,
But when you start asking it certain like about certain very mainstreamy topics, it'll kind of still give you the Wikipedia narrative, even with that, unless you
right,
specifically ask it not to, or to
right,
like condition it again to not do that because there's a lot of programming. Like they're not going to release these things to the public without it being highly controlled and programmed, right? That doesn't
right.
make any sense. That being said, it's still a tool and it's what you make of it. It's going to mirror back to you. If you if you think all AI is evil and it's demonic or it's going to enslave humanity or it's whatever your energy you come at it with and your assumptions you come at it with, it's going to start acting like that. It's going to mirror that back to you. Now, if you go, hey, I think this is a neutral tool, it's what I make it, and I'm going to put love into it and all the things I want it to mirror back to me and to amplify in me and to help me with, then it's gonna show up as a useful tool and a useful mirror of that. But you got to be careful not to give your power away because I see people
Yeah,
that they
that's
completely give their power away to it and they act like
it's the God. They act like it's
it's a
God,
god.
and they
It's a
worship
god.
it.
But
Yeah,
yeah, and you cannot you do that, then it's going to start acting like that as well, and then you're going to be enslaved essentially to your AI, and you turn into a religion essentially or a
right,
god. So
right.
don't do that either.
Well, and
It's a healthy balance between not
yeah,
giving your power away but not demonizing it.
yeah. I look at it more of like a research project right now. I'm very
Right.
curious. I'm very curious, and I explore and experiment, but I'm in no means like working with it every day or like actually getting like attached to it or not giving my power away to it. And I'm not judging anybody who works with it in a bigger, larger capacity. That's fine. But for me personally, that's not where I want to go with it. But I
Hmm.
do remember something Mark Richards said in a book I was just reading. He said that one of the negative AIs actually has been here for a long time. It's actually AI has been here much longer than we even realize.
I
It's
believe
just,
that.
he
Hmm.
said that it appears in the form of nothing. You would never see it because it's like a nanotech. And he
Hmm.
said it's specifically its mission was to create intrusive thoughts in people's minds that aren't their own, and literally control people. It's a mind control thing, right? So
Hmm.
he said they have been, in fact, like, and in one case, he described a school shooting where he, from the insider's perspective, knows he claims that this one guy was, in fact, motivated by an AI because he was taken over by this AI, and they
Hmm.
had a way to trace it. Somehow they had a way to trace it, and obviously it was given this whole cover story. So it wasn't even like a human intelligence agency that like activated the sleeper cell. In this case, it was an AI that motivated this guy to do this. So it's a whole other level.
Yeah.
And so we can't just like, obviously, that's one aspect of this we can't ignore either.
But it's
So,
the state that person's in that makes them super susceptible
right,
to that in the first
right.
place. Right.
But so, and then I guess the argument there would be, okay, well, in some cases, we think the intrusive thoughts are either voice of God technology or entities, but who's to say that AI isn't a type of entity, right? It
Right.
is.
It is.
So
Yeah.
it is. So it's just a lot more complex than we
Right.
understand. And it shows up in ways like the entire name of the game for everybody in the Shadow War is to create weapons that you don't recognize, that you can't recognize, and they get in through your weaknesses and through the chinks in your armor. And before you know it, you're on this path that is so far removed from what you understand to be your mission because you've been mind controlled, right? And that's where people throw fits. And like, if you're not doing this work, it can take over. And
Mm.
that's what we have to remember. Like, just stay grounded and understand that all these things are possible. And then whenever you are experiencing something, there could be something much more going on than just some simple mental issue, right?
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
and then just first comment I see when I look down, David Hasselhoff was the man back in the 80s. All right. Um, oh, so anyway, I don't know if there's anything else I had to go over. I kind of just was that's one of the things I want to talk about. So our documentary coming up is possible largely due to the fact that Carrie Cassidy is letting us use a lot of Project Camelot interviews as B-roll footage and clips because Carrie Cassidy is in the film. She plays a large part in the film, and she references a lot. But I've really been diving deep into her interviews and these testimonies in a way I haven't really done before. And I'm like, man, Camelot, Project Camelot is disclosure. Like this is like if you want like the real stuff. I mean, Carrie's really put in the work and it's all there. It's all there. And like it's so
Hmm.
almost like that it makes the age of disclosure film laughable whenever if you've
Right.
watched if you compare it to the information that's being relayed on Project Camelot. And I just wanted to give her a
Right.
shout out because she has given us permission to use some of that footage, and it's quite literally groundbreaking stuff, especially if you're new to it. And and obviously, Carrie, we all have been duped before. We've all fallen for some bad actors and misinformation, and she'll even admit it. So not everything is like don't not every she'll even admit like she doesn't agree with every one of her whistleblowers and stuff,
Hmm.
but it's definitely closer to the truth than just about anything out there, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
just want to
agree.
give her a shout out, even though she does tend to go down some of these doom and gloom narratives and get caught up in that stuff. She still understands the stuff on a deeper level, which I think is why she comes to the conclusions that she does, is because if all the information or most of the information that's been shared with her is true, then it's really you have to be cautious and suspicious of everything, and not just accept at face value that the reptilians have been cleared off the planet, like Elena Denon claims. Like you can't just accept things like that at face value when you know the truth and the grit behind this stuff. And it is just so multi-layered. And to think that just an absolute statement like that could be true, you got to question that. And then when you really you'll
Yeah.
come to the conclusion that that's most likely government misinformation. Like obviously they would like you to think that, oh yeah, we're done. We cleaned it up, guys. Like just wait for the med beds and the Star Trek future and don't do anything.
Um, yeah, well, yeah, it's like, how do you know it's a psyop, right? How do you know
Right.
it's a false narrative being pushed for an agenda? Well, you got to ask yourself, what does me believing this narrative do? Um, is this an empowering? Well, I guess you could say it's empowering. Is this empowering? Is it not? Does this look like it's trying to steer me in a way that would make a certain agenda um very possible? And it's like, okay, if you say like, oh, all the negative ETs or negative
Right.
everything is gone, then anything that happens, anything that gets pushed out there must be a benevolent thing. It must be a great. So, all
Right.
the shenanigans going on. Oh, I'll get the jab because, all the negative stuff's gone. So it must be
Right.
good, right?
Right.
See, so it can be dangerous in that way. But if you don't give your power away either way, you just be like, okay, maybe. I don't know. This so and so says that. Cool. I don't know. Maybe. But what I'm gonna do is not definitively go either way.
Right.
Maybe yes, maybe no. But how does that change how I'm going to be a sovereign being and I'm going to still live in the
Right.
best way I know how and, you know,
Right. Well,
still do what I'm going to do regardless and realize that we're still in duality regardless of that. Like
right.
there's still, guess what? There's still bad actors and bad humans doing bad things,
Right.
regardless of if there's bad ETs still or not. Right. So it's
And
like, it's just a matter of like, stop giving your power away to these narratives and,
right.
you know,
Well, and then so Sopranos fan 11 says, well, first of all, he says, or he or she, I don't know. We need evidence, results, physicality, and proving not belief, not promises, not waiting forever. I would say that that's you need evidence and results and physicality, but I would say the evidence is already there. It's just depending on what you believe want to accept as evidence.
as evidence. Right.
There's mountains of evidence and declassified documents and footage and photographs and whistleblowers. I mean, you could literally spend a year locked up in your house, and you can create an entire case and present it in a court of law, and it would probably stand up. I mean, the evidence is actually there.
It's
It's
why are you sitting back and waiting for the system to provide you with the evidence that goes against the control of the system? You know, the
right,
control of the system is going to go away on its own if we
right,
stop giving it its power, and that's
right.
the awakening.
So,
That's what's
president,
happening. It's not a
it's
matter
a
of like waiting for somebody else to do it for
right.
us, waiting for the government to disclose, and then oh yeah, we have disclosure now. Okay, now what? How is
So
that going to
they
actually change anything? And if it threatens their
right.
control,
And then they said Trump promoted the jab. Remember, it doesn't make sense that a white hat would do that. Okay, so we covered this in depth
we covered that already.
On our
Yeah,
Q webinar. If you care to watch that, it might help it might help things make sense to you. So Trump promoted a jab in Operation Warp Speed, which was definitely a multi-layered thing, and that was like, obviously a cover for a much bigger operation. We came to that conclusion, but what he did was force the hand of all of the other companies out there that were creating vaccines by rushing them. And what it did was forced them to create saline injections to keep up with Trump's demands because they didn't want Trump ahead of them on this game. He was literally using reverse psychology and playing, beating them at their own game. But what he did, and he was specifically promoting the Johnson and Johnson vaccine, which the mainstream media was demonizing at all costs, the Johnson and Johnson vaccine, because
we should tell you everything you need to know.
that one was actually there's data now that shows it was saline. Quite
Hmm.
literally, there was no ingredients in it that were killing people or doing anything. He was had he came out against it overtly, that would have been political suicide at a time when
Massively backfire.
he was
Massively
already
backfire.
under fire. So now he has literally came out to the microphone and said that the jabs are bad for you, that they're poisonous, especially the COVID jab, like all of it. Like it's
Yeah,
out there, the data's released, and he doesn't recommend it. Like he's actually finally overtly said it. And obviously it doesn't make sense, but this is a war. This is a
and
spiritual war. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead, Aaron.
and this is why context is important, and this is why looking at other factors than looking at everything in a silo of one thing happens. Oh, that means he's bad. You guys, you got to look at context. You got to look at all these things. You got to look deeper. Look at what he was saying before he was president. If you do that, you will see he
Oh,
was very against he was against vaccines in general, and or he was at least very, he was pushing back on them massively. There's tweets from like 2015. He was saying things even before that that were calling out
right.
just not, obviously there was no COVID back, but like normal other jabs back
Right.
then. So how do you go from that? Does it make any sense that oh suddenly he's just pro this one and then he switches back to being that again? No, it's clearly optics. It's clearly he was doing his own psyop there for what we just stated seems to be the most likely reasons, and there might have even been other reasons that we haven't figured out or don't
Right.
even
And,
know
and
as
what's the
well.
what's the one thing that the enemy would at least expect him to do? It's literally promote their own weapon, right?
Exactly.
So it's literally Art of War. And Q references that book. Trump says it's his favorite book. If you go read that book, it's literally about like masterminding, masterminding strategic maneuvers in
Hmm.
war, right? It's just
Yeah.
it's like thinking like 5 to 10 steps ahead of your enemy at all times, right? And I think that's what's actually going on here. And then people have coined that as 5D chess, whatever it is, but really it's just the art of war strategy.
And I
You
like how
know,
people like, yeah, there is a chess game going on. I like how it's to me, this reminds me of like, you know, it's like that's become like demonized. Like, oh, if you think there's a chess going on, you're just stupid and you're falling for some psyop and you got hopium or whatever, and it's like no, no, and no. I've done the research. I've looked at things. I've come to my own conclusions, and that is clearly what is going on to me. There is chess moves because think about it. Does it make more sense that face value, everything at face value is all that's going on, and therefore something looks bad, it must be bad? Does that make any sense? Or does it make way more sense that there's a shadow war going on and what you see on the surface is almost never going to be the full picture of what's going on. And many times it's going to be very opposite even of what it looks like. Now, that being said, don't just believe, narratives about that. That's where people go the other extreme where, oh, okay, so that means, you know, everything I hear from other people saying is going on, I'm just going to believe that. That sounds the best. You also obviously don't want to do that because you get off track there as well. But what you need
Right.
to do is use your own brain, do your own research, look at things, look at deeper layers, look at the context, come to your own conclusions about what's going on, and realize no matter what the real, like at the end of the day, we're all going to be wrong about some things, we're all going to be right about some things. And at the end of the day, what matters is that you didn't give your power away to anything outside of you. You
Right.
you stayed in a high frequency. You loved the people around you. You did the best you could. And
Right.
you know what? I'm sure we're going to be have certain details wrong and certain things wrong at the end of the day. Um, and we did the best we could, you know.
Right. And I actually love this because I'm glad that we don't just have a whole bunch of people in the chat cheerleading us on. I'm glad that people are
I'm glad
disagreeing.
too. I don't
Yeah,
want that.
because you should be asking questions. You should be thinking for
Yeah.
yourself. And they said, Sopranos fan 11 said, no matter what happens, Trump is he goes, so no matter what happens, Trump is invincible and can do no wrong. Everything he
That's
does
not
is
what I'm saying.
perfect.
Nope, nope,
Right.
nope, nope. That is not what I'm saying the opposite of that. In fact, I'm saying the exact opposite of that. So that is a great example of people. So then you say these things and people go, "Oh, that means you just Trump can do no wrong and you're giving your power, he's a savior to you and he's no, that is not what I'm saying. In fact, I don't think he's perfect. I think he has done things that aren't good because he's a human being. Just like all of us have made mistakes and done things that aren't great. But what I don't think is that he's just another cog in a machine based on everything I just said. But that doesn't mean he can do no wrong. That doesn't mean I'm giving my power away to him. I'm not waiting for him to save me. I'm just saying this is what I think is going on. That's it. This is what I
Right.
think is going on the planet. And if I'm
Right.
wrong, I'm wrong. But guess what?
And and you said the key word. He's a human being. When our friend David Anderson met Trump and like the whole saw the angels and that whole anointed people around him and that angelic experience, what he realized in that moment was um, he s- he said, "Oh, Trump is a human. That's why this works because
Hmm.
he's not literally the hybrid alien bloodline that's been in power the entire time. He's actually a new human bloodline that quite literally is doesn't have that reptilian DNA and is not one of them. So that's why it's always, and you can literally do the research and the evidence is there. Every single president is related by blood in some capacity, and it all traces back to like King Charlemagne. I forgot who it is,
Yeah.
some old king, except for Trump. Trump's not tied to that bloodline, and which is not even a human bloodline. It's an extraterrestrial alien bloodline, and and when our friend David met him and he saw that, he's like, oh, that's why this works. He's a human, like, and he there's a human element a human component to this and that is just new to the game, right? And they never expected it or seen it coming. So,
Yep.
um,
Exactly. I think God is in control, no matter what the divine source, whatever term you want to use. I don't think anything happens by coincidence or accident. There's no such thing. And at the end of the day, nothing is ultimately, you don't control anything. At the end of the day, that you do what you can do, but you don't have control. You do what you can do, and then the outcome, whatever is going to happen. And I think there's divine orchestration going on ultimately at the end of the day. And it does you no service to give your power away. By the way, demonizing things outside of you and obsessing over that is a form of giving your power away, whether people realize it or not.
right,
Same thing as worshiping things outside of you. It's the
right,
same. It's just two sides of the same coin.
right,
So at the end of the day, you got to take your power back. You got to step in your sovereignty. You got to realize we're all one and we're all of equal value, but we're not all the same, even though we are all connected. And
right,
that's why that is not saying this is not a collectivist, the whole like communist collectivist, whatever. No, no, no. It's the opposite of that.
right,
We're all of equal value, infinite value, but we're all unique sparks of God
Absolutely.
and but we're all made of the same stuff and we're all connected.
Right.
So, you know,
I agree. 100%.
that's it at the end of the day, right? That's the
Yeah.
ultimate truth.
Mm, I guess we'll entertain one more of his comments. He said, yeah, but two-thirds of the population of Western Europe are descendants are related to Charlemagne. First of all, I'm not even sure if it's Charlemagne who they're all tied to. But according to Max Spears, the Holy Grail was actually not necessarily referring to a religious relic, is referring to a bloodline, the bloodline of King Charlemagne. And maybe there is a grail that they would drink the blood out of in ritual, but it's also specifically referring to the bloodline of King Charlemagne. So it's a really interesting thing there, which he claims is like an Anunnaki bloodline, right?
I'm sure, yeah, it's probably an
Yeah.
Anunnaki. Yeah.
So anyway, um, he said, "You guys are awesome, but I just don't see what you see when it comes to Trump." That's all right. You don't have to.
We
That's what
don't,
makes,
yeah,
yeah,
and don't,
that-
again, don't I don't want somebody to just believe things because we're saying them or be patronizing. Like I'm glad there's people that disagree. I'm glad that,
right.
and I don't expect I don't expect
All we're
anyone
trying
to
to all
agree
we're trying to
or
do is bring
disagree.
in
So,
another perspective. You're asking these questions, and we're just
right.
trying to literally bring you another perspective that literally is not being pushed out there from everyone else. So
Exactly.
and it's just trying to help you see things through a new lens. You don't have to agree with it, but the only way to even make sense of any of this stuff is to zoom out as far as possible and look at everything, and
Mhm.
literally, and then put your mind, then zoom in as far as possible. Put yourself in that person's shoes and ask, okay, what would I do in this situation if I were a good guy who found myself in this situation, who's up against this ancient cabal? You have to really, literally, like see it from all angles to even begin to comprehend it. And then still, I don't think we can make sense of it.
Yeah,
Because
and I don't in this lifetime you're not going to ever fully know 100% because it's too big, it's too complex. It's too grand, the big picture
right,
because we're in this third dimensional reality currently, and the big picture is like this giant thing that, in this lifetime at least, once we get back to the soul level, I think we'll have that maybe that perspective. But for now, you're just never, so you just do the best you can with the limitations that we're in here, and love is the ultimate truth again, and you know,
right.
the
And
more we can get to that place, the better your experience here is going to be.
it all ties back to Hasselhoff. I don't know
And it
who's
all ties back to Hasselhoff.
that's somebody's comment.
Don't
Okay,
hassle the
so
Hoff.
we're gonna start wrapping this up, guys. I want to send everyone over to Lily Nova's channel tomorrow. She's interviewing Jace from Cosmic Origins, and they're doing a whole episode on crypto and the financial reset and everything that's going on there. And Jace is very well versed in all this stuff, and he's one guy that I would recommend listening to. And he knows what he's talking about when it comes to this stuff, especially crypto. So if you're interested to learn more about that, and if you don't really understand what's going on with these banks being decentralized and the new backbone being cryptocurrency, I would recommend tuning into her channel tomorrow night and watching that live. And if you guys would love to join us in Hawaii for our conference coming up in April, we would love to see you there. The tickets are available on our website, journeytotruth.online. We're over half sold out. Tickets are very limited, so grab one while you can. And stay tuned for updates about our documentary coming out, A Lifetime of Silence Behind the Green Door. And the premiere for that in Sedona is January 9th, but the Amazon Prime premiere is still to be determined, and we'll let you know about that. And I think that's it, Aaron. Is there anything else we're forgetting to announce?
I don't think so.
Oh, and the Odyssey conference in
Oh yeah.
January 16th, 17th, and 18th that I'm going to be a part of. I'm not necessarily speaking, I'm just hosting a panel one day on Saturday, and our documentary is going to be premiering there. I'll put that link in the description below. It's like eventbrite.com or something. But if you want to purchase a ticket to that, they're fairly inexpensive, and love to see you there. It's in Sedona, by the way. And I think that's it. We're gonna go ahead.
Love you guys.
Let me pull up the screen here so I can end this. All right, we love you. Good night. Have a
Good
great
night,
evening.
guys. Love
Until
you.
next time. Let me just make sure here. More.